Hello and welcome to another episode of the I Am a Christian podcast. Today we're looking at social media and social media influencers. What is it about? And how we can reconcile this with our faith as Christians. When I was young, we were told, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. But what informs our thoughts? Growing up, our sources of information were newspapers, radio, and to a certain degree, TV. But with the creation of the internet, we craved alternative ways to interact and source information. This demand created a new type of media, social media, and with it came conquerors of the new frontier, the influencers. What is their role, their responsibility, and what is it really about? I have with me today my friend Annie to talk about this. And welcome to the show, Annie. And how are you doing?
Thank you, Ohis. I am doing well. Yeah, it's a good weather today.
Oh, yes, it is lovely. It's absolutely warm here in my little village. And everyone's hit the beach except me. But we're managing. We are managing. So social media. Now, I do not know much about social media. I'm trying not to give away my age, but I am still very much stuck on listening to radios and, I like the debates and the usual bits as it is. So you are someone who I have seen, I think you know much about this. You are very much into it. How does it work? Social media influencing, what is it about?
So social media influencing works in a way where we work with brands, and basically it's just really to get the brand's message out there and help the brands sell their products. And also in a way where we brand ourselves as well. So it's like we're selling our brands as well. So we pick out brands in a way that we pick brands that reside with our brand image as well. So it's a bit like, how we saw things back in the days, we saw them with adverts on radio and TV. But these days, it's basically the influencers that advertise it.
Yes.
To the target audience that is on their social media platforms. So that's really it.
But is there any way you would specify? Are there specific things you will have to do? Say for example, with the brands you advertise, are there specific brands you pick, or how do I say this? You know how usually people would say a niche product.
Yeah. Yes. So there are niches. There is lifestyle. There is faith. There's relationships. There is there's different niches. There's different niches that you can possibly think of. And there's makeup as well. So there are macro influencers and there are macro influencers. So your macro influencers will be the bigger ones, like say Shabright, for example, yes. And Nella Rose, all those people that, are very conversant with influencing that started from like 2014, 2016-ish. Those will be your macro influencers. And then those ones that have like, 37K, 100K followers on Instagram and like Twitter and stuff like that. And then your micro influencers will have about, let's say, 12K, 20K followers. And basically they charge less. Yeah. So brands usually would pay less for a micro influencer to a macro influencer simply because you're influencing more if you're on the Patricia Bright
level.
scope.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it just works in a way where really and truly contact you based on them loving you and them seeing how much you're able to get your audience to interact with you, to engage with you, because at the end of the day, they are trying to sell products. Yeah. So there's no point trying to there's no point of them giving their product to you if you don't have a certain level of engagement on your pages. Yes. So that's really how it works.
So technically, it would be more like you are running, but I don't know if this would be the right way to characterize it. So you are running a marketing firm, and all of these, these brands, they see how well you are doing in terms of marketing your brand, and they want to buy into that to then sell their products.
Yeah, that is it. That is exactly.
Oh, brilliant. How did you get into this? Why? And I mean, we haven't spoken for a while. And I think the last time we spoke, you were off to uni.
Yeah. So to be honest, influencing as a term just became a term, should I say, in about 2017, 2018. Me personally, I didn't know that it was even a term for it, because I started this before most people caught on to it. Like most of us in this, we started at like 2016, 2015. Then it wasn't called influencing. It really was just you being what is called brand ambassadors, and you get like 10% discounts after buying a product. That was how it started originally. And then brands would see if as low as 2K followers. If you had as low as 2K followers, they would still, but you had good engagement, they will still want to give you that product, and they will call you brand influencer, and you'll be able to get 10%. And people who buy with your code, then you get your affiliate marketing, then you get your money from that. Then it wasn't called influencing. We just knew that we're working with brands, but we see this new craze of social media influencing, where people want to, make their profiles look a certain way, make it look very professional. This really only just started in like 2017, 2018-ish, when the rise of, people like Patricia Bright and all these sort of people came into the light, and they were the people who actually gave it a term. Because I, for one, when I was doing it, I didn't even know that there was a name for it. I just knew that, brands would contact me and I would turn down some. Like the very first brand that I worked with was in America, and I didn't know I was influencing, but apparently I was. So that was it basically. So.
Wow. So that's the thing with followers. A lot of people watch your videos and what they're interested in what they hear, and brands see that and they want to latch onto that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here is the thing. How do you? I can recognize there is a lot of work involved in this.
There is.
We're gonna get to that in a bit. But how do you choose areas that you go into and you talk about, like inspiration for these areas? Because especially I've only just started podcasting. I have been blogging for a while, but I've only just started podcasting, and sometimes you just wonder, what exactly should I talk about? Because there are lots that comes, in a particular day. There would be a lot.
Yes.
So how do you choose?
Podcasting, because I do faith podcasting as well, and it's not easy, especially in this era that we live right now. It's not easy, but it's the same thing with influencing. Really, if you're not in a niche that is well known, for example, even the tech guys, most of them struggle with it because it's not like something that everyone is interested in. Like makeup, for example, almost every girl uses makeup. So even if you have the smallest amount of following, you will still be able to reach someone who is using your code. But for me, for example, when I just said that, because I did not really know that I was influencing, the brands that were coming to me were not really brands that, I had to scrutinize and be like, okay, this one doesn't reflect my image, so I'm not going to go with it. They were ring brands, they were clothing brands, So there weren't really brands that I had to do much scrutiny for that, okay, I can't work with you because of this and this and this. But back then it was easy compared to even now that there is so much more scrutiny going on from the brands themselves and so much more expectations. And if you don't have this, you can't do this. If you don't do this, that you can't do this. It's not the same way it was then right now at all. Like even your audiences, they expect so much from the content you are creating. There's so much more work that goes into content creation right now. Before you post a content for a brand, you have to research. You have to know how to tag it. You have to know how to position it. You have to know the kind of captions to use. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. It's not easy. And then now, because of the way Instagram is positioning themselves as almost a search engine like Google, it's just not easy. You have to run ads, all these things, and it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a day's job. It's like a 9 to 5, but it's like a job. It's like a 9 to 5 that doesn't end.
Like the editing bit in terms of even after you've created content and you still have to do the editing and all the little match and mix and all of that. Is that something that you will say, I don't know, if you have a team around you or if you do all of this yourself and if it affects the quality?
Most of us don't have teams until you get to the Patricia Bright, Nella Rose kind of position. You don't have teams. You're one man team, so you're the one making your videos, you're the one thinking of the ideas, you're the one brainstorming, you're the one writing. You are your own everything. You're your own photographer, your own videographer, your own brand strategist. You're your own everything. Like, most of us don't have teams. But me, I think one thing that really helped me was the fact that I freelanced a lot before I started taking influencing seriously. Like, I was a freelancer. I worked with a lot of artists, so I was able to use that experience to be able to know how to communicate with my audience in a way that they will listen to me. So that was one of the things that really helped me. But with editing, you learn as you go, and it's supposed to get easier.
Well, it's supposed to.
Well, it's supposed to, because it doesn't really get easier for most of us, but it's supposed to. Yeah.
Okay, so there are a couple of things I actually want to ask you in terms of what you've just said. Number one is the climate that we are in now. Like you said before, it was much easier. The level of scrutiny with brands, and you scrutinizing the brand scrutinizing you, but I don't know. I think this is not something I've heard you talk about a lot in terms of the content you put out. But I just want to ask, in terms of the climate we are now in, where people get offended by every little thing. There's always something to be offended about. As a social media,
cancel culture.
Yes, the cancel culture, woke culture. You know how it is.
Yes.
How do you navigate based on like the experience you've had compared to the past? The experience you've had with different artists, and the way things were then, working with brands, and now. Would you say it's made the social media influencing a bit more complicated than what it was, and how do you navigate that?
It's definitely made it more complex, because back then there wasn't even, like in 2014, 15, 16, there wasn't a lot of people on social media like it is now. Like right now, it's like every 18 to 25 years has an Instagram account. But back then, it's like we could count ourselves. So it wasn't really that complicated. And people didn't get offended as they do now. It's like for you to write a statement, you're almost thinking about the exact way you want to frame it so you don't offend them. And it's almost very hard because it's like you can't please everybody. So it's like you just have to say what you've got to say to sell this market that you are selling, this brand that you are selling. You just have to, because at the end of the day, it's either they buy or they don't. Like, you can't practically pet them into buying it, and it's their choice. So, especially with this woke and cancel culture going on everywhere, like it's almost very annoying. So for example, especially with this cancel culture, I try not to get involved because at the end of the day, you have to know your target audience. And the thing is, as you grow and as you evolve, you get more confidence in your message, and you get more confidence in placing your brand to the right community. So if I know that my message is not for this particular set of people or this particular generation or this particular, audience, then I don't need to get involved with what you're trying to do. I don't need to get involved with your wokeness. I don't need to react to it. I don't need to, for lack of a better word, send or position my message in a way that it gets to you. If it gets to you, fine. If it doesn't, okay, but you're not my target audience, is the point I'm trying to make. So you have to focus. Your focus has to always be your demographic, and your focus has to always be your target market. And your target market is picked based on what you as a person and your brand believes in, which changes, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't change in a big way as even you grow. So
yes, sometimes it is a bit complicated. For example, like you were saying about, for me, my primary thing is about faith. And well, I've only just started podcasting, but I'm noticing the level of interaction when it comes to that already. A lot of people are opposed to it.
Yes, I was going to come to that place. Yeah. Because for me, for example, this is something I'm still struggling, because when I started out in about like 2015, 2016, I started out in a way where, I interacted a lot with people like Don Jazzy and most of these artists through Instagram. Like the way Instagram was, as I said, we were few, so it wasn't hard to get across to all these music people. So as much as we weren't doing crazy things, we were just like interacting with them and being okay with them. So I grew, and as I've grown, I've kind of had to change my niche based on what I now believe in, which is faith. I've now discovered that a huge part of me is my faith, and I want to help people. I want to be able to lead them back to God, because at the end of the day, you can't live your life without God. So, and that's been a struggle, because people know you. As you said earlier, you had a problem identifying me. You didn't know whether to call me Pastor Annie or to call me Annie. And that's been one of my biggest things, because when I said that, I said it as Pastor Annie because I was like, okay, I can do all things. Let me just be
Christ is strengthening me.
You get me? So that was the brain behind Pastor Annie. But then as I've grown, I've kind of accepted me for me. And, I've now decided to change my name to Annie, but then when people want to address me, they address me as Pastor Annie, and I'm like, see, my name is Annie, please, just call me Annie. So it's like, people still want to call you what you were then, but they don't really understand that as this thing grows and as you evolve, you want to be addressed and you want to be known as this, no longer that person. They want to keep boxing you up as that person that you were before, that person as that they need you as. And they don't really know how to accept that you have become this person and and this person cares about this, but this person who now knows how to position yourself in a way that you are effective in this area. They don't really want to accept that. But what I found is there's always going to be people who will accept you and people who don't. And for the people who don't, you have to give them that time, because a lot of the time people just find it hard to understand that you can grow and you can evolve into something completely different to what you were before. So you have to just give them that time to just understand that this is me now, and this is what I'm serious with. This is where my life is right now, and this is going to be me for a very long time. And it's either you accept it or you don't. But that doesn't really affect me. It is on you to accept it. And for me, it is focusing on the people who accept you and getting them to, sell you to the people who are in their space, in their own community, and being able to interact with people in your niche as well, and position yourself. When I say position yourself, I mean the way you spoke before. It's not the way you will speak now, and the things you would laugh at before are not necessarily the things you will laugh at right now. So it's really been intentional and making people understand that this is me now, and this is where I am, and please take me as I am. And that's it.
No, of course. It's you've actually brought it up. It's something I was going to ask you about, considering your faith as a Christian and with social media influencing and everything that it entails. How do you reconcile the two? I think it's something you've pretty much talked about. But say on a day-to-day basis, is it something that you see that one way or the other, they always come, they're always at loggerheads in terms of, okay, maybe the topics you want to cover, and reconciling that with your faith, then, okay, this is who I believe, this is not who I believe, this is who I am, and
So first things first, I try not to jump on every single thing. So if there is a topic that has ministered to me, I try to sit down with it, and it's something that I've been doing more. I try to actually ask the Holy Spirit to give me a go ahead, because I don't want to say something that in the next 5 years I won't necessarily believe in. So I try to really, really, really sit with it for a while. For example, if I get a topic today in my soul and I really want to speak about it, I'm like, Annie, calm down. And just calm down first. And I'm like, God, teach me how to speak about it in a way that it would appeal to these people. But at the same time, there is always you need to leave room for people who are not where you are, because as much as you have this communication with the Holy Spirit and He's teaching you how to say certain things, there are certain people who are not there yet. So you need to give them that benefit of doubt, and you need to allow them to, almost listen to you and sit with your message and, get to a place where they can accept it. That's why I said you need to focus on your demography and focus on your target markets, because those people who take a little while are not necessarily your target audience. Your target audience are really the people who get you, so that they can be able to take your message to the next place, which is like sharing and stuff. Because the people who are not your target market, they would share it, but they won't share it as much as people who get you. It's the people who get you that really, have the honors of sharing it, and because they are convicted, they understand it. So they are the ones who share it to the next people who, and that's how you get your testimonies and stuff. So in this time, it's not easy. Like, it's the truth. It's not easy because you don't want to get on people's nerves. So, and people don't read. That's the thing. People don't read and people don't listen. Like, especially these generation of like 2000s, they don't read and they don't want to listen. So it's like, what do you want? No, really, it's like, what do you want? Like, I'm trying to, give you blog posts. You don't want to read it. And I'm trying to, let me make videos for you. You don't want to watch it after a certain time. And they say 1 minute, but there's only so much message that can go into a 1 minute video. And it's almost like, what do you really want? Like, help me help you. You can't. And I was in a clubhouse room the other day, and they said you can't get far if you are not reading, because reading is where you have the information. You can't really get far if you are not interested in reading. Okay, read. You don't want to read. Okay, come and watch. You don't want to watch after 2 minutes. Listen. You are saying you can't listen for up to 5. Then what do you really want? Like, help us help you, because if we don't know what you want, we can't really help you. So is it that you don't like big English? Because I've noticed as well that big English turns them off. Like, you can't really be too ambiguous with your words because it will turn them off. So what do you really want? Do you really want me to define my words to a point where they lose their meaning? Because the thing with English is that you can define your words to a point where they almost lose their meaning. So, like, what do you actually want? Like, can I just create for you and then you accept it? Like, it's hard. No, in this generation, it's hard, but it's like, it's a challenge that, God can only help us with,
Oh, yes. There is something about that, though, the reading and listening, because there is actually, I don't know, you must have noticed, I am very much into politics. I like to follow the conversation and maybe every now and again, run a bit of commentary on it. Something I have noticed, and this is something I'm currently writing about, it's the state of our conversations. Now, the thing with our conversations is this. Whenever you are having a conversation with someone, they would always fall into one of 4 categories. Either that person is a manipulator, or the person is a coward, or the person is one of the mob, or one of the do-gooders. Now, the way it works is this. The manipulators, and this is on both sides, whether right or left, political sides, whether right or left, the manipulators have access to the facts. They have access to the real information, but they would always spin it to fit whatever narrative they want to drive. Now, the cowards have exactly the same access to the same facts that the manipulators have, but what they do with it is they go with what the manipulators say. Now, the reason they do that is because they would look at everything they've worked hard to achieve, and there is always the fear of, if I say the truth of what this is, that it's going to put me in a place where I may lose everything I've worked hard to achieve. Now, the mob are largely ignorant, and I think most of us, the people we encounter every day, are usually those that are part of the mob. Now, the mob, they're largely ignorant. They do not research anything. They do not bother to actually read, like you said, or even listen to counter perspectives. All they do is the mob listens to the manipulators every time. There's always I like this person's face, and just because I like this person's face, therefore everything this person says is true. Or I do not like this person's face, and just because I do not like this person's face, everything this person says is a lie. So yes, that's how they define truth and lie. So, and then the do-gooders, which is also in some ways part of the mob, the do-gooders are the type that just go, why can't we all just get along? Let's just be nice. It's kind of like the do-gooders have this idealistic perspective of how the word works, instead of the realistic view of this is how the word actually works. No, people don't just sit around bonfires and sing Kumbaya.
Yeah, so their view is if you're not causing pain, then live your life. Like that's their view, and it's like because I have a couple of them, and it's very annoying. It's like, why can't you just have, like, just have a view of your own? Because that doesn't work. Because in essence, you're saying that if you're not killing someone, then whatever you're doing is okay, and that's not the truth. It's not the truth, because we all know that you can just, even if you're not killing someone, there are some things you do that are not good for yourself and for others. So when I see those kind of people, I'm like, that is not a view. Like, you need to change. Like, I mean, like, it's almost annoying, because I would rather you fall into one of those other three than be a do-gooder, because that's just, it annoys me.
It's a thing. Let us think about this stuff from the social media influencer perspective. Now, the thing is, every time you talk about a certain thing, and there will be those people who, like you said, they can't just wait more than 2 minutes. Once it's 2 minutes, they're completely zoned out. Mm-hmm. And do you think it's maybe, I don't know, because I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. Do you think it has anything to do with the content, or it's just right now, our generation now, we just have this short attention span. We can't just retain anything past 2 minutes.
It's a bit of both. So even as a student, there are preferred ways that you learn. For example, me, I learn through, being in class and seeing my teacher teach me. That's my preferred method of learning. So it's a bit of both. It's a bit of the kind of content they're producing, and also the fact that there's a short attention span thing going on right now. So it's really a bit of both from what I have seen. And also, it's a thing of most of them can't just be bothered. They just want to get their thought out there. So the thing is, and the truth about the matter is that if you don't read something completely, then your opinion can't make sense. So it's almost very obvious when somebody has read your caption, for example, and commented, as opposed to reading the first 3 lines and then leaving the comments. Like, it's almost very obvious between the two people. So it's a bit of both, really. It's a bit of them not being able to, having a short attention span, and also content. Content is king, and most of them, they are not able to pick. So if you are not dancing, or you are not showing them explicit content, if you are writing or saying something that makes sense, then you are losing them if you're not being so simplistic. And that's why I said earlier that there's only so much, like, English is a thing where if you make it too simple, you kind of lose what you're trying to say. So yeah, you lose the meaning of what you're trying to say. So yeah, it's a bit of both.
But there is something, and I think this is one of the things I actually wanted to touch on with you. It's the, will I say, competition or the drive we see now, like the divide between traditional media and social media, this new form of media, for example, especially with, like you said, you can tell when someone's only just read, say, the headlines, and they react based on that, because it's something we see now in traditional media. Like, the headlines are all sensationalism, trying to enforce a certain narrative over and over and over and over again. And the reason I want to ask this, it's because, earlier in my introduction, I was talking about the responsibility of social media influencers. Is this something that, as a social media influencer, you take note of and say, okay, let's try to address this, let's try to dial down the sensationalism? Because I know with traditional media, it's all about ratings, and well, I suppose they've recognized that most people wouldn't bother to actually go through the whole thing. They just want to see, some big headline and whatever, and, run with that. Is that something, say, as a social media influencer, you take note of as part of your responsibility to say, let us address the the substance of a situation, rather than just, put something there that everyone's going to go, yeah, and run with that, and then, start conversations that don't really go anywhere?
I don't really call myself an influencer. And I'll tell you why. Why is because for the kind of things that this mainstream influencers do, I don't necessarily identify with. So I struggle to call myself an influencer, really. Like, I only identify with that term on and off, because it's like influencers have so much done, so they've done something with that name that it makes it so impossible for you to identify with it if you're not in their clique, or if you're not believing in what they believe in, or if you're not passing on the kind of message they're passing on. So it's like, I don't even identify with it so much. And then back to your question, ever so often, I try to speak about the real issue, because I said something yesterday that we can't keep petting people, and we can't keep giving them sweet nonsense. We can't keep petting people as in love. But there is only a certain level to which you can, quote unquote, pet these people. Like, for me, I try to, even when it comes to politics, I try to, address these issues, but address them in a way where you are not seeming like you are opposing, but you're still addressing the very core issues. And it's not as if you are talking to the platform, you are talking to your mates, so you know how to talk to them. And something that I find in this generation is that they don't know how to talk. I think that's one of the reasons why when they see people who can talk, they zone out, because to them, talking is, let's just say our mind, whether they like it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. That's the honest truth. That's the mindset of the generation that we are in right now. Let's just say our mind. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. So it's okay. That's it. And I find that to be wrong, because we didn't all grow up in the same way. And if you want to actually, if you want to lead people to Christ, you have to become all things to all men. So you have to be able to, position the message in a way that it is residing in the mind of whether the person is 20 to 24 or 30 to 38. Yeah. You have to be able to, reach the minds of everyone. So you can't keep petting, but at the same time, you can't, you need to know who you are speaking to, because there's a way that you will speak to our current generation, and that's not the same way you are going to speak to our generation. So you have to find something that works for everybody. Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, because I want to also talk about your podcast, the Reflect podcast. The one thing I want to ask real quick before we get there is, if I was going to start out as, let's not use social media influencer. If I was going to start in the social media space to do all of this, say for a lot of young people who say are looking at you and go like, oh, I like what she does, and wants to do that, what would be advice that you would give them?
Find yourself and have a purpose. Find yourself and have a purpose, because I realized that a lot of people my age don't know their purpose, and they have not found themselves. Yeah. And it's from a place where a whole lot of them are very far from Christ. So I find that people are trying to find themselves away from God. So they're trying to find themselves in things like alcohol and their friends and things, and it just doesn't work. It can't work. And I had the opportunity to speak in a room of ladies the other day, and we were talking about relationships, and I told them that, see, before you start even thinking about dating, you have to first know yourself and know who you are in God. Yeah. So you have to first of all know yourself and know your purpose, because at the end of the day, we are doing faith because we know where we stand with God. You get, and that's why no matter what reviews are, no matter what the listening, no matter what the numbers are saying, we encourage ourselves in the fact that we are doing this for God. And, we just always go back to Him to encourage us. So that's why I'm a big believer in finding yourself and knowing your purpose, because when you know your purpose and you found yourself in God, nothing will be able to face you. Like, I mean, you will feel down, you'll feel sad once in a while, but you know where your source is coming from. You would always go back there for encouragement. So if anyone is trying to start out, I will tell them, find yourself and know your purpose, because really that's your starting point for everything you're doing in life.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks. Okay, so let me ask in terms of the technical aspect, because I remember when I wanted to start the podcasting, I had to look into a lot of equipment, and it's not something I'm familiar with. Now, I mean, I do play around with tech and all of that, but in terms of audio and everything, I had to do lots and lots of research, and especially if you're trying to have a good setup on a very small budget. What would you recommend to someone starting out? I know that I saw so many articles about, you can use your phone. You've got a really good smartphone. You can use your phone, have a tripod and whatever, and things like that. What would you recommend?
No, honestly, that's the truth. Like, I do my podcast with my phone, or like I have microphones that didn't really cost me up to £25. So like starting out, and even, I mean, depends on how big you want to take it, but for a very long time, your phone will do, and just having a microphone will do.
Yeah.
Like really, those are the basics. Like a good audio, a good audio setup, because as long as you're not doing video podcast yet, and it's only audio, your phone can do the job. Just make sure you have a good surrounding, that not too much of noise is going on in, and the room is not empty, so that you are not echoing into your audience's ears.
Yeah. Oh, for that, I actually found a solution with the echo and everything, because, I did not want to put too much on my walls and everything. Have you heard of a website called Auphonic?
No.
It's really good for post processing. You get 2 hours free. If you're on the free plan, you get 2 hours free every month to process your audio, and trust me, it's absolutely good. All you need to do is upload the audio file, and post-processing runs automatically, and then you download the finished work, and it's so good. Now there are paid options as well. You get more hours monthly and everything, and you can also buy one-time credits, but it's really good. I think you should check it out. You'll be surprised. It works so well. It's something that's helped me a lot, because I did not have the time to start to learn about post-processing and everything. So I just thought, is there a solution? And I found one. It's absolutely brilliant. But
interesting.
Yes, consistency is something I want to ask before we talk about your podcast, Reflect. How do you, find the, inspiration or strength to just, be consistent with putting out content, recording and putting out content, especially with all the extra bits, editing and everything that you have to do after?
So, with blogging, because I'm a natural blogger. Like, I write. So like I have a lot of notepads in my room, and I just write as the ideas come, and I just really just really write it out. But now the pressures between writing it in your book and writing it into words are two different things, because what you write in your book is often not what goes on word and what gets on your blog. Because as I said earlier, you have to modify and change up certain things and, just make it palatable for your audience. But consistency, as I say, it's very key. So I would say that consistency is, for me, I tend to focus more on the quality of my work. So even if that means me putting out maybe 2 or 3 posts per day, as long as they are good quality, I don't really mind. But what I found when I started out was that a lot of people were coming to me and saying, "Oh, Annie, you have to do this and this and this. You have to do at least 5 posts per day." And I'm like, how are you getting 5 posts per day? Because I'm not blogging entertainment. This is not entertainment. This is lifestyle. So how do you want me to do 5 posts per day for a lifestyle blog? So then that's the thing. That's where you have to really know yourself and know your purpose and know why you're doing what you're doing, so that as much as the advices come, you can know what to filter and you can know how to, you can know how to then do what you want to do for your own self. So I'd really say know the kind of things that you want to go on your blog. So then you can be able to alternate it. And so you could do one long post, one long post, and then you could do like 2 short posts, which is like motivation or just giving out Bible scriptures. And so that makes it 2 or 3 posts per day. So, and then you can do those 3 posts per day every day for 1 week. You know how much that is and how much it can bring viewers to your site. And then I would say, don't neglect advertisements, because there's only so much your audience can do for you. And until you start, leaving your audience and going out, you are not really getting a whole lot for what you are putting in. So I would say don't neglect advertisements. Like advertise just as much as possible. Advertise, and then editing for podcasts. When I started my podcast last year, firstly, I started with just reacting to certain kind of posts I see online. And with that, there is this app that I use. I've forgotten the name right now, but there's this app that I use, and it just lets you be able to record in chunks. So that if you're making a mistake, you can delete it, and until it's perfect, you don't need to post it. And even with like your recording app on your iPhone, for example, like there is a new feature that they just released, that if you don't like it to a certain extent, you can delete it and then start from the part that is good and complete it. So from with all those in place, I mean, the sky is your limit, really. Until you don't need to be investing £100 in post-production. So,
brilliant. Well, I want to thank you so very much. And okay, so let's talk about the Reflect podcast. What is it about? Where can we find it?
So Reflect is available on it's available on Anchor. It's available on your iPhone podcast as well.
Yeah.
So it's really about gospel related news. Faith is anchored very much in faith. It's basically journeys of faith, stories that can reside with people and they kind of identify with it's just as the name connotes, reflecting on yourself, reflecting on your journeys, reflecting on your life. Basically, that's all it is.
Anchor, it's one very brilliant, brilliant tool that I discovered as well. That's actually where I've got this podcast on as well. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely brilliant. Miss Annie, I hope I got it well this time.
Yes, sir.
I got it. I must, yes. I'm terrible with names. I always remember people's faces, their names, no. I really want to thank you for, taking the time to do this. And I will be looking forward to having you on again, just to talk about things in general. And,
sure, anytime.
And maybe you could show me some tips on advertising as well. That is one area that I really, 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 really struggle.
That's one area I'm actually even learning too. Yeah, I don't have it on lock as well, but I mean, step by step.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I think it's good because like I was saying earlier about narratives, I think it's really important, especially for Christians to join in and try to change the narratives that are out there, and things like this, like with your podcast and what you do, and things like this, it's what will change that narrative, and I think it's very, 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 very important. So so I'm just going to say to everyone listening to this podcast today, you can find Annie on Instagram at Annie the Brand, or on Twitter at Anny James, and the Reflect podcast you can find on Anchor as well, or Apple Podcasts. It's called the Reflect podcast, and yes, it is brilliant. It's really, really brilliant. There's so many areas you cover that I do not cover, lifestyle and whatnot. It's not something I am very good at. If you're talking about politics and theology and philosophy, yes, but lifestyle wears me out. So I'll leave it to the likes of to you to just do that, and I'll follow that and see what's going on in that word. But thank you so very much for this session today. And like I said, we'll always reach out to you to come on and have more discussions about different things. And
thank you so much.
So it is brilliant. Thank you so very much. Friends, I hope you enjoyed listening to today's conversation with Anny James. If you have any question about what we discussed, or anything relating to theology, philosophy, or politics, please send it to hometruths@aol.com. That is HOMTRUTHZ@aol.com. Or use the contact us page on my website, www.hometruths.weebly.com. That is www.hometruthz.weebly.com. Now, I'm looking to have more guests on the show covering issues relating to different areas of society. If there is anything specific, topic-wise, you would like for me to cover, please send your suggestions to hometruths@aol.com. Also, remember, the best way to support this podcast is by subscribing, like, and share with family and friends. Don't forget to leave a comment on the platform where you get your podcasts. It helps to move the podcast to the top so others can see and engage with it. Now, thank you so very much. You have been listening to I Am a Christian podcast. I am His.